people who live inside their minds the way others live inside their homes. They sit quietly in crowded rooms, not because they have nothing to say, but because they are saying everything to themselves. Their silence is not empty, it is full of questions that have no answers, full of patterns only they can see, full of a kind of loneliness that feels like both a curse and a gift. Deep thinkers do not choose this way of being. It chooses them. And while the world celebrates quick decisions and loud certainty, they remain in the margins, observing, doubting, feeling everything twice. This is not a story about intelligence. It is a story about depth. And depth, as it turns out, comes with a cost. To be a deep thinker is to carry an awareness that others do not seem to notice. It is to walk through the world and see the layers beneath the surface. A conversation is never just a conversation. It is tone, subtext, hesitation, the things left unsaid. A decision is never simple. It branches into 1,000 possible futures, each one examined, weighed, reconsidered. Where others move quickly, deep thinkers pause, not out of fear, though fear is often there, but out of a need to understand, to see clearly, to make sense of what feels endlessly complex. This does not begin in adulthood, it begins earlier. In childhood bedrooms where a child lay awake long after the lights went out, replaying the day, trying to decode the moods of adults, the tone of a teacher's voice, the reason a friend pulled away. Deep thinking often grows in soil that is emotionally rich but unstable, in homes where love was conditional or unpredictable, or expressed in ways that required interpretation. The child learns to read the room before entering it, to anticipate, to protect themselves by thinking ahead, and so the mind becomes a tool for survival, a way to navigate what feels unsafe by understanding it first. Sometimes it comes from solitude, from being alone often enough that the inner world becomes more familiar than the outer one. The deep thinker as a child may have spent hours in their own company, building entire universes in their imagination, asking questions no one around them seemed interested in answering. Why do people say one thing and do another? What happens after we die? Why does everything feel so temporary? These are not the questions of a worried child, necessarily. They are the questions of a child who is paying attention. And once you start paying attention, it becomes difficult to stop. There's a psychological term for what happens inside the mind of a deep thinker. It is called metacognition, thinking about thinking. The ability to observe one's own mental processes, to step back and watch the thoughts unfold as if from a distance. Most people think. Deep thinkers think about their thinking. They notice the patterns, the biases, the loops. They catch themselves mid-thought and question the thought itself. This is not a conscious choice. It is the way their mind is wired, and while it can lead to profound insight, it can also lead to exhaustion, because the mind of a deep thinker does not rest easily. Even in moments of peace, there is an undercurrent of activity. A song on the radio becomes a memory, which becomes a question about time, which spirals into a reflection on identity. A casual remark from a friend lingers for days, turning over and over, analyzed from every angle. Did they mean it the way it sounded? Was there something beneath it? Should it have been addressed? And if so, how? The deep thinker does not ruminate out of paranoia. They ruminate because their mind is designed to extract meaning, to find connections, to leave nothing unexamined. Neuroscience offers a glimpse into why this happens. Brain imaging studies show that individuals prone to deep, reflective thinking often exhibit heightened activity in the default mode network, the brain's introspective system, active during rest and self-referential thought. While others can quiet this network easily, deep thinkers remain engaged with it, their minds constantly weaving narratives, exploring possibilities, revisiting the past, rehearsing the future. This is not a disorder. Reluctant to claim absolute knowledge. They see too many sides of an issue to pick one and defend it fiercely. They understand that most things are more complicated than they appear. And while this makes them wise, it also makes them hesitant, paralyzed sometimes, caught in the web of their own thinking, unable to move forward because every option feels incomplete. This is the prison of overthinking, not the thinking itself, but the inability to stop. The mind that loops back on itself, questioning every decision, replaying every interaction, searching for the right answer when there may not be one. Deep thinkers are often their own harshest critics. They analyze their mistakes with surgical precision. They hold themselves to standards no one else would dream of imposing. And when they fail to meet those standards, they do not simply move on. They dissect the failure. They carry it. They let it confirm what they have always quietly feared, that they are too much and somehow not enough. But there is a moment sometimes when the tide begins to turn. It does not come with fanfare. It comes quietly, like the shift from night to early morning. It comes when the deep thinker stops fighting their own mind and begins instead to listen to it differently, not as an enemy, not as a problem to be solved, but as a part of themselves that has been trying all along to protect them, to help them make sense of a world that often feels senseless. This shift is not about thinking less. It is about holding the thinking more gently. It is the realization that depth does not have to mean suffering, that sensitivity is not the same as fragility, that the mind's restlessness is not a flaw but a feature, one that has allowed them to survive, to adapt, to see what others cannot. The deep thinker begins to understand that they were never broken. They were simply built for a different kind of seeing, and with that understanding comes a kind of integration, not the erasure of overthinking, but a softer relationship with it. The deep thinker learns to notice when the mind is spiraling and, instead of resisting it, to acknowledge it, to say quietly, I see you, I know what you're doing, you're trying to keep me safe, thank you. And then gently to redirect, to choose rest, even when the mind resists it, to let some questions remain unanswered, to trust that not everything needs to be understood in order to be okay. Living with depth becomes less about changing who you are and more about making peace with it. It is learning that you do not need to explain yourself to people who cannot meet you where you are. It is finding the few who can sit with your silence and understand it is not emptiness. It is discovering that your capacity for reflection, for meaning, for noticing the small and sacred things is not a burden you must carry alone. It is a gift, not always easy, not always comfortable, but a gift nonetheless, because the world needs people who think deeply. It needs those who pause before speaking, who ask questions that make others uncomfortable, who refuse to accept the surface when there is so much more beneath it. Deep thinkers are the ones who write the poetry, who create the art, who sit with the grieving and know what to say, or more often, what not to say. They are the ones who notice when someone is struggling and ask quietly, "Are you okay?" and mean it. They are the cartographers of the inner world, mapping territories most people never visit. They carry a kind of knowledge that cannot be taught, a knowing that comes from having spent so much time alone with their own thoughts, wrestling with them, befriending them, learning to live alongside them. And while the world may not always celebrate this, while it may ask them to be quicker, louder, more certain, the deep thinker knows something the world has forgotten, that meaning is not found in speed, that wisdom is born in the pause, that some truths can only be reached by going inward again and again until the noise falls away and all that remains is clarity. So if you are someone who thinks too much, who feels too deeply, who cannot turn off the questions, know this: you are not alone, and you are not too much. You are exactly what you are meant to be, a person who sees, who feels, who understands that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. And in a world that often forgets this, your depth is not a burden, it is a quiet revolution.